coaches. I think you also would have seen just the skill level that some of the teams seemed to have an edge over South Africa, particularly the subcontinent sides. How far do you think we are in terms of that regard? Because you see teams like England having a specific bowler for those middle over periods and Plunkett, so which showed that they spent a lot of time in looking for those sort of skills with the white ball cricket 50 over match. And how far do you think South Africa is this side that you went to the World Cup with after the World Cup has been concluded?
It's a good question. I think initially when we picked the team, and over the last 18 months, the team that we put together, I think from a bowling point of view, I think we would have been as good as anybody. And as Faf mentioned, when you've lost, over the last 18 months, what we've done was to put together a world-class bowling attack. The batters haven't produced the numbers that you would have wanted, but we won a lot of series with that same team because of our world-class bowling attack. Once we've lost that world-class bowling attack, then it becomes different. There's a lot more pressure on batsmen to perform. But initially with the team that we had, we were very optimistic that we would do very well in the tournament, certainly better than we have done.
Coach, good morning.
Morning.
In your career of coaching, have you ever gone to the World Cup with injured players? Have you ever taken a squad or a team to the World Cup with an injured player or two, or one that has a niggle, that has not been playing, that has not been getting game time? And can you finally officially say that you, together with the selection panel, you were the one who also said that I would like to have this player on board, I would like to have that player on board? Were there any players that obviously, due to the fact that the selection panel is a panel, that you couldn't have, that you wanted to have?
I don't think so. I don't think there are any players that were left in South Africa that we felt should have been there. Otherwise, they would have been picked in the first place, I guess. The thing about taking injured players, when we went to the World Cup with the West Indies, Chris Gayle has always got some sort of a niggle, but he's a world-class player, and you take him. If you're talking specifically about Dale Steyn over the last 18 months has been a world-class player for us and a key part of our bowling attack. And when I met with his medical team in Cape Town during the camp, they said he needed 8 to 10 more days to be ready to play. And therefore I felt it was the right thing to do to afford him that 8 to 10 days to see if he can get going. Because if he gets going and then I put together that world-class bowling attack that we've had, then things could be very different. Even as far as Hashim sort of out of form for a large part of the summer, he had his family issues at the back end, decided to take time out of T20 cricket to go and do some work with Dale Benkenstein. In the first 2 warm-up games, Hashim looked like his old self again. He got 2 half centuries and was looking really good. Unfortunately, the first game he got a knock, a hit in the face. And sort of the magnitude of something like that will have an effect on any player. Back in the day, something like that happens and it sends a ripple effect through the whole dressing room, but I felt like certainly from a batting point of view, we had batsmen that if they clicked could put runs on the board. But ultimately, once we didn't have that world-class bowling attack anymore, then it became obviously a very difficult situation.
Coach, maybe just to go to the mentality thing that Stuart and Faf were talking about just before Faf left. My former coach, Stuart Baxter, has spoken so many times about how South African players mentally struggle with finishing off a game, and with our bowlers sometimes we struggle. The bowlers have struggled to finish off the tail of most teams that we've played against. In the 2 years that you've been here working with the pool of players that you've worked with, how would you say maybe you assess the mental strength of South African players across board?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that in the cricket sense, simply because when we went to Australia for the series we played in Australia. The series ended up at 1-1. And that last game, we said, okay, this is our World Cup final. Let's fast forward to the World Cup. Australia versus South Africa in the World Cup final. Let's see how we perform. And our mentality was fantastic. And we played a fantastic game of cricket. We got 200s from David. David Miller and Faf got hundreds. Lungi bowled extremely well. He was a lot fitter than he was. He bowled extremely well. KG bowled well. I think Dale Steyn also played well in that game. So the mentality wasn't questioned then. Was never in question then. Also, when we played against Pakistan here in South Africa, it came down to it was 2-2 in the series, I believe, and it came down to a decider. We played those deciders. We always said, let's play these deciders like we would play a World Cup game. And in that decider, it was the same thing. The fact is that the ball and attack perhaps led the way, but in the game in Australia, we got 300 and something, in a deciding game. So the mentality. At that time, I had no concern over the mentality at all at that time. In the World Cup, the build-up that we had, not able to get as much perhaps game time as we wanted in England. The second game got rained off. The second practice game got rained off. I get and I understand where people are coming from with the Bangladesh game. That perhaps our mentality or body language or whatever wasn't as good as it should be. But I also think perhaps Bangladesh's body language is probably higher than it's ever been. If you look at how they performed in the tournament, they performed well above themselves in the tournament. So mentality-wise, I felt like we fronted up. Obviously, the first week was tough with the three games in the first week. We're the only team that played 3 games in the first week. Once we lost the first 2 games and then we lost players. The first game we lost Hash as a batsman. The second game we lost Lungi as a bowler, and then so you're under pressure. That keeps putting pressure on the squad all the time. And unfortunately, we didn't recover in time. By the last week of the tournament, we were playing the cricket that we wanted to be playing. Either in the first week or certainly by the middle part of the tournament, but we didn't recover from those setbacks, those early setbacks in time.
Coach, similar question that I asked earlier about your future. Now I know you so delivered at your future with Cricket South Africa. You had a fantastic record leading up to the tournament, but things didn't go according to plan. And of course your mandate was to win the tournament. Do you feel that you've done enough to save your job?
I suppose that would come out in the wash in the next couple of weeks, I guess. But I said this in the media in England. If you look at the World Cup in isolation, then you think perhaps I haven't done enough. If you look at what we've achieved over the last 18 months, then it's a different picture. It is. I guess it will come down to interpretation from Corey and the hierarchy.
Corey, miskien ook om dit Afrikaans vraag die part te kry maar net. Van die bestuur se kant af natuurlik.
First of all, wait a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Who are you speaking to?
Corey.
It's the questions are open for Ottis first.
Sorry, I apologize. Coach, can I ask you the question then, Coach?
Not in Afrikaans.
Otis, do you think every question we ask here, possibly now in this press conference, is a question in hindsight? I was fortunate to be here at the press conference when you guys left here, and you guys spoke about, and I'm being very sincere in my questions. You spoke about the fact that you guys went up Table Mountain to go and do a bit of thinking. In hindsight now, do you think you guys, whatever you guys did in the build-up, during the tournament, do you think you guys did everything perfectly right? And is there things that you guys could have changed? And if you do get a mandate to go forward, what would you want to do differently, Dosa?
I think with regards to the tournament itself, the lead up to the tournament, obviously the lead up to the tournament was tough. It wasn't exactly as we would have liked it. When I started off with Zondi as the chairman of selectors, we sat down and we spoke about what we need. We needed to have a look at players, so we opened up and we said from the beginning we were going to open a pool of players, have a look at a pool of players, and then hopefully by the last 6 months, certainly the last 10 games against Pakistan and Sri Lanka, we wanted to play the team that is quite likely to go to the World Cup. with injuries and different things, we weren't able to put that team on the park. Even in the last series against Sri Lanka, we were still looking at other players, which I guess would have been an issue. Even in the camp, with players coming back so late from the IPL, we weren't able to really ramp up the intensity in the camp to get it up to where we want it to be, so that when we get to England, we hit the ground running. So perhaps that's something that we can look at going forward. But all in all, when we left, we still felt like whether we were going to win the World Cup or not, we still felt like we were going to do better than we did. And ultimately, we haven't done anywhere near as well as we expected.
Coach, just on your future a little bit more. There's been links to the England job. Can you confirm it tonight?
I've never had any conversations around that, so I guess at a time like this, there are links with every job. So if you get a link with a job, it probably means that you're actually not that bad after all. So there you go.
Coach, just in terms of the continuity of the team itself, obviously losing JP and Imran through retirement, is there any players within the current pool that we took to the World Cup that you think could step up into a bit more of a leadership role? Obviously with Ash and Faf maybe not going to be playing as often as they would have in the past. Are there any players that you see at the moment who can step up into their role?
When you look at it, there's Quinton, there's Aiden Makram, David is only 29 or 30, I think. There are a lot of players, KG Rabana, Lungi Ngidi, Andy Lepekoya, all these guys, it's their first, but I would think that those guys are the guys that will, haven't had the experience, are the guys that will take the team forward. The experience hasn't been great for them, but I'm sure that there's stuff that they've learned through the experience that they can put into practice. I think Aiden Makram is going to be a fantastic player for South Africa. At the moment, he's not putting the runs on the board that we all expect, but when you see him back, the 30s that he makes are world-class 30s, and I've had a conversation with him and I said, you don't want to be a world-class 30 batsman, you don't want to be remembered as a world-class 30 batsman, but I know that he will turn the corner and he will make a lot of runs for South Africa going forward. He's captained the World Cup winning team in South Africa. Let's not forget that either. So I think he's somebody that will have a significant role to play in cricketing in South Africa going forward.
So last question, so Stuart or Shatsi, and then
Coach, this is 2 in 1. The greatest myth in cricket, world cricket, is why South Africa hasn't still won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably had those questions before you even came to this job. Could you, now that you've completed a World Cup with the side, perhaps point it to the direction of it being a mental thing when it comes to an ICC event? And also, did you, at any stage throughout the World Cup, in those changing rooms, look at some of your bowlers and notice a bit of fatigue with all the cricket that they've been playing in specific players like KG Rabada?
Well, fatigue for sure. I think KG, he came back early from the IPL because of an injury scare, and then after that, like I said, in camp, we weren't able to ramp up his intensity because he was trying to nurse him back to fitness, knowing that we had probably 8 days in England before that first game. So there was a fatigue element in there for sure. But around the mentality, like I said, when we played other series, we played with a very strong mentality, and we played with a winning attitude, and that's the attitude that I, from the beginning, I said, if we're going to win the World Cup, we have to be fearless. I don't know what it is, because of whether it is the way that we started the tournament, the way that we got into the tournament. We didn't get into the tournament the way that we expected to, trying to win. Even if we lost against England and we won against Bangladesh, then it would have been a different scenario. We didn't win that game against Bangladesh that we were probably expected to win. And then confidence take a hit, and then as soon as your confidence take a hit, the strong characters will stand up, and the characters that feels the pressure a little bit might sort of just go into themselves a little bit, and we try throughout the time in practice to keep making sure that we maintain that fearlessness in our the way we approach practice is still the same way that we approach practice when we were playing in the other series. You know, but like I said, the tough start in the first week just set us back, hit our confidence a bit, and it took us too long to recover that confidence. And in the last week, we played with a lot more freedom. You know, people would say, well, there was no pressure, but you know, to that I say, the last game of the tournament, you're playing against Australia, who's already qualified. I've been around teams in the past where when we get to that stage, people throw the towel in, one foot's on the plane already, and the performances go completely the other way, you know, but at least we still stood up and put in a fantastic performance against the team that could potentially go on to win the World Cup. So, you know, we could have beaten the world champions before they become world champions.
And the enthusiasm and was
fantastic.
consistent throughout.
The team environment will always remain strong throughout the whole World Cup, even though we weren't playing great cricket. We still had the team environment was still very good. You know, there's no sort of backstabbing or anything. There's no people sulking away in their rooms. We still enjoyed each other's company and stuff like that. Went out for meals together and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, we didn't play well.
Krista?
Just on the story that you know, that you were given an ultimatum beforehand, and it was said that you either make the final or you lose your job as coach. Can you confirm, was that the case or not?
I can't remember what I was told. You win the final or you lose your job. You know, I think in January I had a conversation around staying on with Cricket South Africa. So we'll see whether that conversation still holds true after the World Cup.
Thank you very much. The floor is now. Do you still have questions?
Yes, just to follow.
Yeah, much like this question. That's the last one, so it is.
Yeah, to Coach, if the powers that be says continue, do you want to continue? And to Corey, in hindsight again, I mean, do you guys regret that maybe you should have called the players in from the IPL?
Yeah.
Because it's one of the reasons which has been put as, you know, why we didn't do as well as we should have done.
I think the first
What's
question.
the first question?
My question is that if CSA says continue, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I feel so. The T20 World Cup is around the corner. I feel like I still have unfinished business. You know, so but we'll see how the conversations unfold in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. We're now taking questions for the rest of the panel.